King. It's a lot of suckers out here with their money, and you can't be no sucker out here with your money.
Bro, I ain't no sucker. Bet you I don't.
Okay. What's assets?
Assets are things that bring money into your bank account.
What's liabilities?
Liabilities are things that take money out your bank account.
Entrepreneurship is the act of becoming an entrepreneur. What's entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship is a process of setting up a business or businesses.
Taking on a greater than normal
Financial risk.
What's an entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur is a person that organizes and operates a business or businesses.
Also taking on a greater than normal
Financial risk.
What's financial mean?
Money.
And what's risk mean?
Chance.
Come on. What does it mean to own stock?
When you own a share of a company.
Come on. What's real estate investing?
Real estate investing is when you invest in a immovable property.
What's the two types of real estates?
Commercial real estate and residential real estate.
What's commercial real estate?
Commercial real estate is property for businesses and workspace, like an office, store, and land.
And what's residential real estate?
Property to live on, like a house, apartment, or condominium.
Come on. It comes with extra fees when you have real estate, you feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Daddy tells you how many times he pays his state property tax a year.
Once a year.
What's the type of maintenance fee?
Cutting grass.
Come on. What's HOA?
Homeowner Association.
And what comes along with that?
HOA fee.
Come on. And when it comes to the brokerage percent, what percent is that?
7.
Come on. What's equity?
Equity is the difference between what your business is worth minus what you owe on it.
Also assets minus
liabilities and debt.
Good job. What's credit report?
Credit report is like a report card letting you know how well you did by paying your money back you borrowed.
And how does credit affect your life?
The better you keep your credit, the more opportunities you'll have to get funding.
And what? Large purchases like?
A car or a house.
Come on. And always repay what you
owe.
Because if you owe somebody, that means you're in
debt.
And you never want to be in
debt.
Because that means you
owe somebody.
And we don't never owe
somebody.
Because that ain't what suckers do, period. Come on.
Yeah, man.
Hello, audience. We are back again for Money Matters because we all know that money matters. I'm sitting here with my good friend and fraternity brother, you know, the only fraternity that I'm aware of. All right. I know that's going to drive some people crazy. My good Omega brother, and he's vice president of Park Community Federal Credit Union, Mr. Raymond Smith.
Bless you. Thank you. I enjoyed certainly being back here again with you today. Certainly appreciate last time being here and the calls that came in and opportunities that were afforded me. So thank you for allowing me to be back.
Well, the reason we're back because the last time he was here, we had such a good time. It was so much great information that I felt that it deserved an encore, that we needed to get together and do it again, to let people know that things that are going on with your credit union and how we can make people better off in handling their money. But before we go there, we had as you can see, before I even go there, you can see that we're masked up today because this COVID thing is going crazy, and everything that you know and we hear that if you remain masked, you wash your hands, great hygiene, you do effective social distancing, that we can reduce the curve on this crazy pandemic that we're all living through right now. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of why we're here. We just want to keep each other safe. Now, last week we had a number of questions. Now keep your questions coming. And question number one, Ray, it has to do with credit unions. I had a question said, what about legal credit unions? Didn't completely understand the question, but why don't you share with them a little information about credit unions, and we'll go in more depth later on in the conversation.
Yeah, I think part of the question that came out was the insurance piece, you know, that everybody sees that with a bank that there's FDIC insurance. And so they know that up to a certain dollar figure, that if the bank collapsed or whatever, that they will be insured up to that dollar figure. So a lot of times we hear the question of, so are you all FDIC? And I'll say no. But the rest of the answer is we NCUA. So it's the same, it's the credit union's protection of the same way the FDIC for the same dollar figure. So a person that puts their money or invests their money in the credit union is going to be insured just like you would if you were at a bank. So it is not a risky investment. It's the same type of thing, same dollar figure, same policies and procedures.
This is one thing I know about folks who are at credit unions as well as banks, and they're both safe places to put your money. Don't get me wrong, But the folks that I do, my wife is, she's been a part of a credit union, and she won't give it up for anything. She's been a part of a credit union since the days of she was in college. And there's a relationship that people have at credit unions that seem to be a little different than relationships with other financial institutions.
Well, there's no question about that. And I tease my bankers because I think I may have mentioned before, I'm an old banker. So I know what the banking life is like as well as the credit union. And the difference is that we don't put people in silos. We don't have to pay board members, right? So we don't have the stockholders that we're paying board members. We have our board members that are volunteers. So the profit that the credit union makes goes back into the products and services. The banks are for profit. The credit union is a not-for-profit. So we're not a non-profit, we're a not-for-profit. So the money we make goes back into the products, the services, the buildings, and so forth, and paying payroll. But that's why we can be creative, because we believe in people. I think I shared with us before that with the credit union motto is people helping people.
Well, let me say this. Park Community Federal is also a great partner with our Family Life Center. And the things they've made it possible is for people to do banking right inside our Family Life Center. Tell him a little bit about the machine that you have there. It's not an ATM, but it's a little different than most other banking machines.
Yeah, we're happy and we're very grateful to be here in the Family Life Center. And I love the fact that when Dr. Cosby talked about it being here, that it's for the California neighborhood. This is for the neighborhood. This isn't just for the church. It's in the Family Life Center. What we have in there is an ITM. And I mean, it works as an ATM 24 hours a day, but an ITM is where you have the opportunity of talking to a live teller. It's just like you being in one of our branches. When you press the button, the lady comes on, one of our tellers or gentlemen come on, and they're able to take care of your services just as if you were standing in the branch. Even to the point, you know, with an ATM, you get dollars back, right? $5 to $10, $20. You can't get change from an ATM. You can be in the Family Life Center, want a soda, and say, I'd like to have 4 quarters, and they're able to give that to you. It's
Wow.
just like being in the branch. So the ITM, we like to say is an ATM on steroids, because everything that you want to do, making payments and so forth, can be handled at the ITM. Along with that, you know, we're here as well. We physically come here on site to take applications, to open accounts, to work business loans, mortgages, all right here on site without a person having to come into the credit union.
Well, that is what we call a true partnership, as well as making an investment in our Family Life Center. So that is a true win-win-win proposition as it relates to our Family Life Center and Park Community Federal Credit Union. Another question that I had last week, which was a really good question. Person says, should I cancel my high interest rate credit cards? Well, this person says that she has 2 credit cards, high interest rates. Should she cancel them? Well, this is my personal recommendation. Do not cancel your credit cards, because canceling your credit cards hurts your credit utilization number, which is about 30% of your credit score. Remember, 35% of your credit score is your payment history. 30% of your credit score is your credit utilization number. And if you reduce the amount of money that you can get for credit, it increases the percent that you have outside in credit. So number one, I do not believe cancel those credit cards. Now, then what do? There's 2 ways, Ray and audience, I believe that you attack debt. Excuse me, guys. One is called the Snowball Effect. Take the one that has the lowest balance, and I'm going to use the word attack. Attack that credit card. Pay that credit card off that has the lowest balance. Now, what that does, it gives you a sense of accomplishment that you are headed in the right direction. The other thing that you do, and the method that I like the most, to be candid, is attack the credit card that has the highest interest rate. You make sure you make at least minimum payments on the other one, a little more if you can, but you put as much money as you can to attack that credit card that has the highest interest rate. Now, once those credit cards are paid off, let me tell you another thing that happens. Or let me give you number 3, and then we'll get to that. Number 3 is you could go to possibly Park Community Federal Credit Union, get a consolidation loan, pay both of those credit cards off, but here's the key. Does the interest rate that you're getting the consolidation loan, is it lower than the combined interest rates for the 2 credit cards? If you're saving money on interest by doing that, then I would suggest you consolidate those. Now, another positive thing happens once you pay those credit cards off, or you're heading that direction. Guess what happens to your credit rating score? It'll go up. Now you can get on the phone, call the banks who house those credit cards, and you can actually ask for a lower interest rate. Will you lower my interest rate based on my credit history? Or when you pay those off, you can ask for lower interest rates then. Now here's another key. Don't use them anymore. Once you pay them off and once you get there, stay away from high interest rate credit cards. Use credit cards for necessities if you gotta have it. You know, a friend of mine just discovered that they had a major issue with their home. They didn't have the cash to get it done. Well, they had this credit card that didn't have any balance on it that they could use because of an emergency. What do you think as it relates to credit cards?
Well, I mean, I will say this about credit cards, and you touched on some good points. Number one, if you have the ability to pay your credit card off, that's what you ought to do anyway. And then it doesn't matter what your rate is, what the interest rate is. Because if you've got a 15% rate on the credit card, but I'm paying the balance off at the end of each month, I'm not going to pay any interest anyway. Right. So there are those that use credit cards just for a period of time, but they pay the balances off. If you are not and don't have the ability to pay the balances off, rate becomes a big, big deal with you, right? And so I said last time, and I'm going to say it again, now we get into the fact of, do you manage your money or does your money manage you, right? There's a difference there. And so being able to manage the money, not the money managing you, that everything goes to the bills. The other thing I'm going to say is that deal with someone that wants to have a relationship. If all I'm going to do is look at your credit score, you don't really need to talk to a person. They put that in the machine and they either give you a high interest rate or turn the loan down because it's a credit score. One of the differences, again, with Park Community Credit Union is we looked at the totality of the picture of what you're applying for to make decisions on what we do when it comes to loans.
Well, I just can't even believe you said that, because guess what the next question is?
What is that?
It's like you saw it on my paper, right? The next question was, what is a fiduciary relationship and the advantages?
Well, you know, when you're on the board, you have a fiduciary responsibility for the well-being of the credit union, right? And so it's important that we do the right thing for the right reasons, because we have examiners coming in to look at us to say, are they doing right? Are they predatory lenders? Are they charging higher interest rates than what they should be? Are they collecting the way they should be? So we have a fiduciary responsibility, and you have that anytime you serve on the board, that the illness comes back to you, to the board, and to the company you're working with on doing the right thing for the right reasons. So you could examine on that every year.
Yeah, by definition, a fiduciary relationship is the highest legal duty of one person to another or to a group.
Right, and that's why I'm saying, so you've got a board that oversees the company and then the individuals that are working with members and customers in the community.
There are certain folks who will have a fiduciary responsibility to folks who can't take care of business themselves.
That's right.
There may be some folks who are challenged physically that can't get it done. And so they would get a person who is a fiduciary that can help them pay their bills and to make sure that they make good business decisions with their money. I will say this, it's all about trust.
Yeah, if I can tell me here, the POA. So you've given power of attorney to someone. That's a fiduciary responsibility. All right. There's a fiduciary responsibility for a financial institution, and then there's a fiduciary responsibility of individuals. And what you're giving an example of right now is a POA. Somebody has the power of attorney over your account, over your business, and they're supposed to handle it in the best interest for you. And so, giving the POAs to individuals are important. And you really need to have a responsibility, I mean, really have a trust factor, because that means that you've given them power of attorney over whatever you've signed over to them. And they can do anything they want with it.
So the question is, what is the relationship, which we've explained, and number two, what are the advantages we explained, but also, I always believe having checks and balances in everything that you do. Make sure that there's someone else who can also look over what you got going on, to make sure that your money is being handled in the right way.
Yeah, and you know, I believe in saying this, and I'll say it again. Have a relationship wherever you are. I mean, I don't try to pull people away from where they are, although you won't get it any better than at Park. But have a relationship. Relationship have their privileges. If you're dealing with somebody that all it is business, they're not going to be always looking out the best interest for you, because they're just doing business with you. And you can do business with anybody. Relationships have their privileges, and that means somebody taking as much time invested in you as you are in them. Relationships are quid pro quo. It's give and take. And that's the type of thing that we try to focus on and make sure that we do with our members at Park Community Credit Union.
I think everybody needs to have a relationship with a financial institution, one that they're comfortable with. But remember, the relationship, if I may be so bold, is not with Park Community Federal Credit Union. The relationship is with the person who works there.
Absolutely.
Who represents that person.
That's exactly right. Here's a little key I give to people all the time. When you go in to utilize a branch or location, one of the first things you ought to do if you're new there is say, I'd like to meet your manager. And when you want to meet the manager, the first thing the manager thinks is, oh, something is wrong. And when you go to them, simply let them know, I'm one of your new members. My name is such and such. I'm going to be coming in and out of here. Just want you to know who I am. Every time you go in after that, that manager is going to be speaking to you. They know who you are. You know who they are. Now, when you actually need something, there's a relationship established versus just trying to do business.
It's when you walk in a location and they mention you by your first name, how does that make you feel?
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
I do it, a little thing that I do, even when we were out going for dinner, when we could go out for dinner, right?
Right.
Is I always ask the waiter or waitress, what's your name? And if they don't have a name tag. And you'd be surprised, just asking something like that, what's your name? Developing a small relationship, you'll see what happens to the service that you receive, as opposed to people who feel they don't care. It's about having empathy.
Yes. And
when you have empathy for folks, and it's genuine, you usually get it back. People give you what you give them. The next question that we had last week, and guys, keep those questions coming, because we will answer them, I promise you, the following week, it was a question about gentrification and how it affects property owners, and can they retain their property when developers come in?
That's a personal decision. Can they retain it? What happens, and I think maybe a part of the question is, there are properties that people have paid off and they still have taxes to pay. And as gentrification comes and property values increase, many times people are put in a position where they can't pay the taxes. They don't owe anything on the home, but because taxes have gone up, they now are no longer able to pay the taxes. And I think that's what has happened in a lot of communities, and that's what one of the concerns are in communities.
It is, and when it happens, usually taxes go up, usually rents go up, and many times it can displace their current residents because the culture of a neighborhood will go away.
But but did I tell you, George, that reminds me, though, of one of the things that Park is so committed to regarding into the west end of Louisville. One of the things we're committed all over the city. Matter of fact, we stretch from southern Indiana down to Berea, Kentucky, but we understanding and listening and have an ear to what the community is saying. So I think I shared with before that we have the West End Initiative where we're assisting individuals to become homeowners, where we will lend them 125% of the mortgage. Right? Now this is, you have to live here. It is not for an investment product. It has to be owner occupied. But they're able to borrow up to 125%, $100,000 to purchase the property, the other 20 in being able to renovate it, to fix it up. We set it up over with no PMI, 100% financing, no PMI, $2,000 of the closing costs we assist with, and they can have a credit score of 585. Unheard of.
That is the reason. That is one of the many reasons that I wanted Brother Smith and Vice President of Park Federal to come and share that information with you again. I think those kinds of features and products needed to be shared with my audience, our audience, more than once. Now, so say that again to me. So you will loan money up to what value of the home?
125%, right? And the reason for that is because we kept hearing and seeing. We have an ear. We want to hear. We don't go in telling communities what they need. We listen to what they're saying they need. These are how these products have been developed. And so we originally did it at $100,000. What we started hearing was, but many of the properties that we're trying to buy need some work to them. They haven't been kept up well. And so we said, all right, we'll put a piece on here that allows you to be able to borrow enough to renovate. We put that piece in an escrow. So $100,000 to purchase it, then another $20,000 to do the repairs, the renovations if you need so. We do 100%, no PMI, which is the private mortgage insurance. And typically,
share with them what a PMI is.
Yeah, PMI typically, if the loan to value is greater than 80% of the value of the property, if you're borrowing more than 80% of the value of the property, typically you pay what is called private mortgage insurance. Okay. Private mortgage insurance is expensive, and it doesn't benefit anyone but the lender. And it's to ensure that if they have to take the property back and there's a gap, it pays that difference for them. So if you typically are borrowing more than 80% of the loan to value on your loan, then there's PMI. People will hear that. Here's the PMI, and it's expensive. What we're doing, we're going to lend 100% with no PMI, along with being able to assist with the renovations of the home, right? We set it up in structure where there's no PMI. We will pay $2,000 of the closing cost, and as I said on that particular product, you can have a credit score of 585. So I like to say to people all the time, we don't say no. Sometimes we have to say not now, but we'll give you steps 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, or whatever it may be, and when you complete those, then we're able to lend you the money.
Wow, that's incredible. So let's share. There were so many amazing products that you guys have that could help the folks who are our viewers, and even if they know other people who need help, that they can share this information with them as well. So you were talking about helping people who wanted to start a business, and there was an incredible business loan that you guys offered that in my opinion is worth sharing one more time.
Well, sure, I'd love to talk about that. This is because many times you go to a financial institution and you just need a few $1,000s, or you're starting a business, right? The micro business. And let me say on the front end, we're able to help from A to Z. So, it's not you're only able to get this small dollar loan. We can do as large as the commercial loans as you need to do, a couple of $1 million if you need it. But in this particular product, what you're referring to, George, is that many small businesses just need a leg up. Like right now, many of them just now beginning to open the doors again because of the COVID-19. They don't have the cash reserve that was there because they haven't had customers to be able to give them cash reserve, right? So many of them are starting afresh and anew. One of the tough things is getting that capital to be able to jumpstart your business again. So one of the things we have in place is what we call a micro commercial loan, where a person can borrow up to $10,000. We set it up over a 3-year installment payment, so you have a principal and interest payment for a 3-year period of time. It has an interest rate of 3.99%. But now watch this. We use it also as a teaching tool of the importance of borrowing and paying back as agreed. And the reason why I say that is because when a person pays that loan back as agreed, we refund them 100% of their interest. So they're getting an interest-free loan. When I did the presentation of this downtown, some of the other lenders said, well, how are you making money? And I said, we're not making money on this. We're losing money. But when you take care of the people, you'll become profitable later. And because we're about taking care of the people, this is something we put in place because we saw there was a need to have access to capital. And I say this all the time. You can have opportunities all day long, George, but if I don't have access to the opportunity, if I don't have access to the capital, it's not worth the paper you write it on. So what we try to do is walk what we talk and practice what we preach and be able to put some products in place that help people.
There were so many exciting things that you were talking about 6 weeks ago. One, we talked about it briefly, that you could have a 585 credit score,
right,
and be in position to own a home.
Yeah.
But let me visit that just for another second.
Uh-huh.
Do they come accompanied with very high interest rates?
No, they get the market rate. So whatever the rate is, they're able to get the market rate. So it's not predatory lending. We don't believe in that. Matter of fact, we're putting products in place to offset that because we don't want people to be gouged on interest rates. So they get the market rate of whatever that rate is that it is at the time. And right now, rates are very good when it comes to mortgage. So we're able to do this because we recognize that everyone has had challenges, right? Everyone has had challenges with whether it's credit score, have had something paid late, and we believe that people deserve an opportunity, a second chance. And so Park, and this isn't every credit union, this is just what the management of Park has decided, these are the things that we're going to do to help individuals gain access to capital. And one of them being that having a credit score of 585.
Let me ask you this. When people, if I can go and get a loan, what you call them micro loans, the business micro
The
loan?
micro commercial loan.
Micro commercial loan, and I can get a loan for $10,000. I can get it at less than 4%. It was 3 and some change, and it's a 3-year loan, and I'm going to get all that interest back at the end of me paying all that principal and interest. What has been the hurdle, in your opinion, to stop people from walking in your door and asking them for help?
Well, here's one of the things that happens, and certainly understand it, is that you hear the expression, there's no free lunch, right? And many times people, when you hear something is too good to be true, many times it is. And so one of the things that when we first started doing some of the products within the community, people would say to me after our big meeting, they'd say, okay, now what's the catch? You know, what's really behind this? And when they start finding out, there's not a catch. This is for real. And I'll give an example, and I love giving him a shout out all the time. He's a member here at St. Stephen's, and he's on one of our brochures. He started off with the micro loan. He went from the micro loan to being able to get a guidance line of credit. Went from the guidance line of credit to having a true full-blown revolving line of credit, but it started with a micro loan. One of the things that I said about him, though, that I really appreciate, he said, Raymond, I'm going to make sure I pay this as agreed, because it's really not about me, but it's going to be about those coming behind me. And I want to make sure I establish a great track record so those behind me are able to do this. But he's a prime example and he was able now to go to the city and get contracts to be able to do work. And even during this pandemic, he told me the other day, he said, my business is continuing to boom, not shut down. And he reminds me it started with him getting that micro commercial loan.
That is about people helping people.
Absolutely.
And that's what you're about personally, and that's what your credit union is also about.
Well, I'm gonna say this, George, because and
you're
very kind. You're very kind
about you.
You're very kind. And I say this all the time. God doesn't bless us for us. He blesses us to be a blessing to somebody else. And so part of my daily prayer is that the Lord allow me to be an instrument to be used by him, that I may help someone along life's way. For if I can help one person along life's way, then my living shall not be in vain. So when God blesses us, puts us in a position to be a blessing, it ain't about me. You know, we give him all the glory, just leave us with the blessings. And so, you know, one of the joys being able to help someone, to be able to see the couple that were in their 70s buy their first home, who never thought they could buy a home, and here they were in their 70s being able to buy their first home. Well, you don't think we had a hallelujah shouting time in the office? Oh, yeah, yeah. So it's about helping. It's about doing the right thing for the right reasons, and things turn out all right.
I love that. I have a quote that I was going to use at the very end, but I think it's a good segue for me saying this. Our expectations many times prevent unimaginable achievements. It's that if you don't expect to get someplace or you don't expect to win, then you can't win. If you don't expect your children to do well, if you don't set high expectations for people around you, then they can't get to where they need to get to. So what you're doing is putting people in a good position. You're telling them now, increase your expectation. You don't need to continue to pay rent. Find it, and you can help them to get what they need to get done.
Yeah, it's about helping. It's about helping. Doc, you got me a little stirred up in here right now. I am in St. Stephen, and you know,
this is a church.
I am reminded.
This
I am reminded of Ephesians.
And Pastor Cosby is my pastor.
I am reminded of Ephesians, Doc.
We went to college together, but I ain't gonna tell no stories on him, y'all. They were all good.
Ephesians 3:20 reminds us, now unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we could ask or even imagine. Now watch this, comma, according to the power that worketh within us. Too many times it's us not allowing the power to work within us to be able to do the things that we've certainly been blessed to be able to do. And so when he blesses us to be a blessing to someone else, can't help but to do those kind of things. We talked about, let me tell you about this new one, George.
Please.
We got a new one that's out there now. It's so new that we haven't even done brochures on it yet. But we'd like to listen to what the community is asking. Right? We don't look to say, here's your box. What box do you fit in? Is what is it you need if it makes business sense? We look to put something together. So now we've got another product that we just introduced because people had talked about, what about the piece of borrowing but maybe having some investment income? Again, it must be owner occupied. But so one of the things that was asked of us was about duplexes. So we now have just introduced a product where individuals are able to purchase the duplex where they live in one side and they can have a renter in the other. Now they must qualify to be able to, from a debt ratio, being able to 43% debt to income, must be able to support that. But we also would do that up to $125,000 and may make some adjustments even to make it a little higher, but right now it's $125,000. We also do that at 100%, no PMI. We assist with $2,000 of the closing costs. Now on this one, you have to have a credit score of 640, but still the same benefit, the product of being able to now have a renter, which is going to bring you some investment income in to go along with helping you to make that mortgage payment. But we just introduced that, and again, I'll get you the information on it. But it was something that kept coming to us of, what about duplexes? What about if I want to live in one side? So we now have actually introduced this new product, and we're unveiling it, that we are helping people to not only buy the property to live in, but get investment income as well.
Because the primary way to build wealth is through your property.
Yeah,
it's through your home. It's through property that you buy.
Absolutely. It's called equity, right? And so I buy something at this dollar figure, the balance goes down, but the value goes up. And that's what happens in property. So the analogy is that you start here, and every month you're paying down. And one of the things I want to say, too, in part of when I am doing some workshops with individuals, I also start talking to them about making a principal reduction every year that reduces that even more, because you only pay interest on the amount of money you borrow for that period of time. So when I make principal reductions, I pay something off early. But anyway, so the value, so my balance keeps reducing, but in property, the value keeps escalating. It goes up. So that gap becomes equity. And what people use that for, people use equity in property. They use it to start businesses. They use it to buy other property. So they made property. So now my value of my properties here, I only own this. In between is equity. And that's how a lot of wealth is created, because now I can use that equity to do anything I want, whether I'm starting a business, whether I'm buying another house, where I'm getting investment property, and I utilize my equity to do it.
That's why it's very important, to the best of your ability, to purchase a home rather than pay rent. Now, we understand the challenges that are going on. Don't get me wrong, but when you can, set high expectations, set goals, tell yourself that, you know, I'm at the end of this year, when we get past COVID or whatever, I am going to look for an opportunity where I can own my property rather than building equity for a landlord.
And what we do with that, George, and I'm glad you said that, is we actually do financial education, right? And so we have someone that helps get you in that position, so you don't have to figure it out on your own. At no cost to you, we do financial education on a regular basis. In the faith-based community, I do what we call biblical economics and the utilization of the Bible with how I'm handling my money. So we actually help prepare individuals. So you may not be ready today. We get a lot of calls that say, I'm not ready to buy today, but I want to be in position a year from now or 6 months from now to buy a home. And so we start working on the things that they need to have worked on to get them ready for that. And again, financial education of getting individuals back into the mainstream of the credit arena is one of the things that we do on a regular basis.
You were talking about, you kind of just touched on this briefly. I think it's called your debt ratio. Mm-hmm. And I think you said it was at 43%. Kind of share with people what that really is and what you mean by that.
The debt ratio is what you have coming in versus what you have going out, right? And so you can do that by in its own. It's based upon fixed expenses. Now I'm not going to talk about, because I got in trouble a little bit here last time. If you remember when I said what some of the flexible expenses are, teasing here, but you take your fixed expenses, mortgage payments, rent, car payments, those things that, loans, those are fixed expenses that you have. And then you have flexible expenses, right? And so, what you look to do is that you're taking your monthly income and you're dividing into that your expenses, and that gives you a percentage of number. And what you really want to keep that is somewhere between 40 and less.
Okay.
Sometimes we'll go up to 43%, as you just heard me say, but you want to keep that ratio at 40%, which means that I have the ability of making my payment. And that's the key, the ability of. If you're a business, it's called a debt service capacity ratio, and you want to have that at 1.25 to 1.30, which means for every dollar you make, you ought to have $1.25 coming in or $1.30 coming in, because what those numbers show is that you have the ability of making the payment. If the numbers become escalated and it's 50, 70, 80%, that means that you're going to have, if the water heater goes out, you may have a hard time making your payment this month, because now you got to reallocate where you were going to spend for your payment onto something else like that.
So that's what, if anything at all, that's what happened in 2007 and 8, when, right? When people were giving loans not based on a proper ratio.
Right. Yeah. If you're not careful, what happens is you start borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, because now I don't have the disposable income to pay the debt. And so those ratios pretty much keep you in line. Now, if my ratio is greater than 43%, greater than 45%, greater than 40%, is there any hope for me? Absolutely. One of the things that we do is to work with you on reducing, and you touched on it a minute ago, even like with credit cards, we look at what that debt is. How many cards do you have outstanding? And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is, I've got 5 credit cards, but I'm only using 1. Well, but when we look at the numbers, we have to calculate the ratio against all 5, because at any given time, you have the ability of going to charge up on those 5 credit cards. So we have to calculate your debt as if you have 5 credit cards, even though you may only use 1.
Wow. Okay. I didn't realize that. We're getting, time's rolling around, and Brother Smith, we could talk for 2 hours, but there's certain things I kind of want to share with folks too. There's very important information. That $600, well, first of all, there are 32 million Americans as of today that are receiving unemployment. 32 million. I think that's the maybe most in the history of the country. It may be another time, I just can't remember when. All right, I know in recent history. Of those people who are getting that extra $600, that comes to an end this Saturday. This Saturday, because unemployment weeks start on Sunday and end on Saturday. So we want everybody to understand what's going on, because it's going to affect all of us. It's not just going to affect that family who is no longer going to get that $600 a week that's been getting it, because now the average unemployment is $383. So that's going to prevent folks from buying products that will even help other businesses that are open. So we want people to, during this period, a lot of people have changed their spending habits.
Right.
Continue to change your spending habits. Continue to, if it's not an essential item during this period, stay away from it. Maybe during this time, let's go without Showtime and HBO, you know. But we want to help you as much as we can to get you through this time.
One of the things that I've seen a lot of, people are now having a greater respect for what you just said. And so people will come in and say, yeah, I want to sit down, I have this check, but I don't want to just cash it. How should I put that? Where should I put it? So that it will be somewhat of a rainy day fund for me, or when I need to take some of it out, I'm taking some of it out for needs, not for wants. And so people are coming in to sit down to talk about that. I think that the disposable income, that's really what's happened now, is that there is a greater awareness of that. And so I'm not just out having a good time. I'm now watching what I spend my money on. And so we're seeing a lot of that as well, and certainly praying for those that are in that position. And so we don't take it lightly, no, we take for granted what we're able to do, but we do enjoy and appreciate sitting down and welcome the opportunity of helping people manage through this tough, difficult time.
One of the things we've talked about over the last 15 or 16 weeks, and I can't believe it's been that many weeks, Brother Smith, that we've had this webcast, is to ask people or to look into different ways of thinking and different ways of making incomes, that take this opportunity to maybe what can you do differently, what opportunities out there, what are your true passions, how can you make money in a different way, can you develop a side hustle. These times, sometimes hard times, will put you in a better position when those hard times become better times.
Yeah, it's been interesting because even some of the things that we daily use now are thoughts and ideas of others that have become true entrepreneurs. I mean, we're both wearing masks today, and the different masks that people had started coming up with, because it was a novelty, and you couldn't at one point even get them. People started learning how to make masks, right? And so people will come to us and sell masks, right? This is what they've done. And so people have been very creative in how they're going about doing some things right now. You're exactly right. It's one of those things where, will you ever really get back to doing business the way we used to do it? No, probably not. No. And so people are becoming creative, innovative in how they're doing business.
One of the many things that and I don't use this word loosely, that I love about you and I love about what you do, Brother Smith, is you take the business that you're in and you use it in a spiritual way, from a big biblical perspective. And before we get out of here, just one more time, kind of share with people again what you do, how you do it, and just give them some inspiration before we leave.
Well, as you know, I'm a vice president for Park Community Credit Union, oversee a division that stretches from southern Indiana down to Berea, Kentucky. The Lord blessed me. He continues to bless me. I give him all praise. I give him all glory. I give him all the honor. I also have the blessed privilege as I pastor a church, and I know how real God is, right? Seeing, here's what I say, seeing is not believing. Believing is not seeing. in the walk of all of us, and that's what faith actually is. Now unto him, right? I mean, this faith is the substance of things hoped for, and it's the evidence of things not seen. If I if I have to see it to believe it, I really don't have faith. I've got to trust God, and he will create, he will make ways out of no ways when we trust in and believe in him. Right? And that's why I gave the Ephesians 3:20 a few minutes ago. You know, it's according to the power that worketh within us. God is real, Doc. So when you say, share a little bit about me, I'm nothing without him. Apart from him, I can do nothing. With him, all things are possible. Let me give you an example real quick. Can I got one more minute? One more minute. Let me tell you 3 examples of that. The Lord will meet you where you are. This is what I love about Jesus. He'll meet you where you are. See, if my faith level is on ground level, he'll meet me right there. If I'm midway in there, he'll meet me there. If I'm up here, he'll meet me right there. The Bible shows an example of when a man came to Jesus and asked him to come go with me and heal my child. Come go with me. Jesus agrees, okay, I'm going to come go with you, because the man says, you got to come go with me. While he was on his way to get ready to go, a woman came and she simply said, now I'm not even supposed to be in this environment. I don't even need to talk to him if I can just touch his clothes. If I can just touch the hem of his garment. So now you've got a man that says, in order for this to happen, Jesus has got to come go with me. You have a lady that says, I don't need to even talk to him. If I can just touch the hem of his garment, I'll be made whole and well, because no other doctor could heal her. And then there's the only other time that Jesus marveled, 2 times that Jesus marveled in the Bible. One was because of such great faith. The other was because of lack of faith. And there was a man that came to him and his servant was dying. And so Jesus says, I'll come go with you. And the man says, no. I'm a man of authority. I tell people to move this way, that way, and they do it. He said, you don't have to come, just speak the word. So you've got the lady, you got the man that says, come go with me. You've got the lady that says, I just need to touch the hem of his garment. And then you got a man that says, just speak the word. Jesus says, I have not seen such great faith in all of Israel. Jesus met every one of their needs, but then the decision becomes, where are you in your walk, in your life and faith of believing what the Lord will do for you? Because he'll meet you where you are.
Wow. I would thank you very much with that. I had a friend of mine just recently, very good member of St. Stephen Baptist Church, and he's torn between, do I stay at work, do I get out, do I do this, and I said, brother, you've been listening to Pastor Cosby for years. I know you have, because you've been a member there as long as I have. And the thing that he says is, either you have faith or you have fear. You can't have them both.
No, that's right.
I said, so either you got faith that you realize that the job you have is what God used to pay you. And if you don't have that no more, God will use another vehicle to pay you. So though there may be some tough times, I promise you, if you have faith, if you try, you look at things differently, we can get through this.
That's right. Faith and doubt don't go together.
So
when doubt creeps in, faith walks out.
So with that being said, I think this is the end of our program.
Yeah, Doc, you got me ready to preach up in here.
And Brother Smith, first of all, thank you for coming again. Thank you for sharing this information we have with our audience. Thank you and to Park Community Federal Credit Union for developing products that you didn't try to put a square peg in a round hole.
No.
Right? You come to people where they are. If you need revenue to start a business, go to him. If you need to buy a home and your credit is just not where you think it should be, let him help you. But more than anything else, have faith that you will get through this, and there will be a better day at the end of this pandemic. Thank you very much, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. This is a blessed privilege, and I appreciate the opportunity of being on your program again. God bless you.
God bless you too, my brother.
Thank you.
You're welcome.